Well, hi, Maddie. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Welcome back. Welcome back. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Lesser 99 podcast, Stories of Everyday People.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I kind of like pointing out our faults from the week before or things that we learned just because this is a whole trip for me,
Right.
Um, what's something you think we did well from our last podcast compared to our first?
Um, Definitely we were calmer. I
I
think
agree.
that we were able to kind of relax and be able to speak without jumping over or stepping on each other's toes or talking over each other. Um, I think I think we're finding our podcast voice.
Yeah, that one has been a challenge for me. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
very loud talker, very hyper,
Right.
but I go back and listen to that first podcast and I'm like, cringe. Cringe.
What about you? What do you think about our last podcast? What was something good that you liked?
Something that I liked was we may have traveled a little bit, we may have gotten lost in our speech, but like we still did a second one.
Right.
Our first one, we came away from it just really wondering what we'd done. Did a second one, and I just kind of have to see a success in it versus a failure.
Right.
I'm really proud of us.
I think even our fails are more like bloopers. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
like us having to film a couple times or completely deleting a podcast because,
yeah, we did that.
sometimes the things that we say end up not being what we liked.
Well, and it's so hard to portray a message in these days and make sure you hit all the right parameters. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're over here just trying to be like, "Hey, hello," and you've offended 3 people and all you said was boo.
Right.
You don't know
Yeah.
what you did anymore. I feel like we need to be a little bit more streamlined so that maybe our guests it's easier for them to follow. So
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of hoping to do that a little better today.
Yeah.
Um, today, we're going to talk about religion. Where you came from, where I came from, where we are today. And, I feel like in that starts the root of who you figure out you are.
Right.
So that's kind of why I would like to just go over it right off the bat. Not anything against any religion, but this is what it was for me.
Okay.
So how do you feel about that?
Well, I was raised Catholic.
Okay.
And you were raised Mormon, so I know that our upbringings were a little bit different. Um,
Vastly.
Mine is a little bit shorter of a story, I think.
Okay.
So I would love to hear more about, your upbringing and where you came from and where you started with all of that. So,
Let's see where I started with all that. I'm very confused.
mm-hmm.
It was a very confusing childhood. I was given answers like because I said so, or I had a feeling, and I hold no malice towards my parents in any of these things, but they didn't understand themselves to raise someone like me,
Right.
you know? So being raised Mormon meant sitting, listening, being lectured, um, control. I
Mm-hmm.
just always felt controlled in this situation. I didn't feel safe in this situation. So it was very confusing for me.
Okay.
I my grandparents were the first ones that met the missionaries that everybody knows that are famous for the Mormon missionaries. Their name tags, they're like
Okay.
iconic.
Yeah.
Um, they, go around and knock on the doors and stuff like that. My grandparents were the first ones to meet missionaries and kind of join that church. So very recent in my lineage,
Mm-hmm.
at least on my mom's side. I don't know. My dad's story as well is a lot more confusing. It was just a little more confusing to me.
Okay.
So I'm not sure, but I do know that it's still pretty recent on that side as well, like grandparents for me. The way I see it now is it was a blueprint, a way to raise your family,
Mm-hmm.
but also there was an expectation that was unrealistic to me. And I didn't know that. I didn't know me. I didn't know what was going on. I was raised in that seen and not heard era, but, go outside and play.
Yeah.
Um, so, Mormonism meant that and I know that they go by a lot of different names, but in that time we went by the Mormons.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know that they are much more particular about being the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or whatever it is. But for me, it just always came with boredom and follow the rules and sit still. And man, I wanted to be outside playing in the dirt. I didn't really understand
You wanted to be a kid.
it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really understand it. I wasn't given the option to understand it. I was just told how to do, what to do. And then there's summer camps, and then there was weekly meetings, and it was like they were shoving it down your throat
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that this is who you were going to be when you grow up. So this is my interpretation of coming through that. Like, I don't know what it is for other people, but for me, they promised a magical castle in the sky, where everything was going to be perfect, but you could only get there if you married a man.
Okay.
Like, that's the only way you get there. So in your mind, in my mind, in hearing that, I had to have a man. Like, that was the thing. But I was so unsettled and so panicked at life, per se, I think, that I just ran out and did exactly what I never wanted to do. Married the first guy that I dated, didn't know anything about love, didn't know anything about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I didn't know anything about anything. I've been grounded my entire life because this religion and the way my mother interpreted the rules to raise us gave straight fear.
Okay.
My mother's afraid of the world. She's afraid of missing out on things. She's afraid of losing people. She's afraid of everything.
Do you think that being in the church affected that? Do you think that growing up in a Mormon church where there's so many expectations, it created rifts in your family? Or?
I think so. I think so because you are encouraged to stay married no matter what. So you put on this image for the outside world, but how can that be happiness? When two people just are at a silent standoff in their own home, I don't really know how to describe it. Like,
Right.
That's how they figured out how to live. My parents are still married, they're still together, they still travel together. Like, that is their choice. That is what they have done. I don't hold anything towards it.
Right.
It just doesn't feel good to me, and I didn't know how to interpret that.
Okay.
So for me, not only did I have parents that I didn't understand, then throw in the religion that I didn't understand because I didn't have a feeling. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, I'm sorry, who told you that we had to do that on Wednesday night? Then I was dumb. I don't want to do. Like, the whole thing was just a way to keep us under control, per se. It was more about the numbers and the masses rather than your well-being as an individual.
Okay.
Like, I think I was just a number on that roster. I was somebody who followed their plan and signed my name on the dotted line for the certificates. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how else to explain it. But anyway, so lack of knowledge, undereducated, I will forever stand that ground that I just didn't know anything about anything the way that I was raised. Went away, got, to college, and again, met the first boy. It was loneliness, like sheer loneliness. He was a returned missionary. I was finally going to make my mom happy, like all the things in play that you do to help make other people happy. But I don't really hold any blame for anyone because I didn't know myself either.
Right. You were following expectation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So, like, that expectation, I was going to do everything that my parents ever wanted, like that's what it started off as. It was rough. We were compatible in some ways and not in others. Mostly, I don't think I even know how to like a guy, let alone be in love with a guy. Like, I was so undereducated when it came to the ways of the world. You cannot raise a child in a PG household, send them out into the world, and expect them to have any tools or education.
Right.
You can't look at him that way.
Should we mention the special guest? I'm sure he's been spotted.
I know, we thought he'd sit up here with us and we had him trained, but clearly he's not cooperating, so.
Well, he is only a couple weeks old.
He is.
Or
he is.
2 months, I think he is. 2.5, something like that.
Yeah, something.
Couple weeks old. Anyways. So obviously now you're not, in the church.
I am not.
So how did you end up where you are today? And,
So that's a funny thing in itself
Mhm.
because I was forced out per se, not really given a chance. Of course, I think I messed up my kids in return. We went to church and then one day their mom was partying. Like, it's a vast thing to how I ended up here, but my version of events is when I was going through the divorce.
Mhm.
Things were ugly. We were not kind to each other. He had a new wife. I was dating people. Like, it just, our worlds were messy, and we retaliated a lot. So anyways, in that religion, when you go through their whatever you want to call it, what they believe in, you can get married in the temple. You can do all of these things that just get you closer to that, wonderful heaven up above. And but because I was sealed to this man in their temple, then she had to have my permission as first wife to be sealed to him.
Mhm.
So instead of anybody listening to me, because I was like, no, like, he's not being kind right now, he's not being respectful, like all the things that you told me that a man should be, he's not being right now, but you want me to sign over a new wife when I feel that there's complications, there's problems, I don't know what the situation is, I don't live in their home, but he was doing things that weren't natural to the person that I knew, and so that was really hard. That was really hard to go through. Anyway, so I wouldn't sign this letter. I would not write a letter of, yes, I'm okay with it. I would not give them the permissions. And I just wanted out of it. I don't want to be first wife, second wife. I just wanted out of it. Like, what, can we just move along? Like, what? You can't tell me when you put me in the ground and you leave my body there that it mattered if I sat in church on Sunday.
Right.
That's how I came roundabout. You know what I mean? But yeah, like, religion, in the end, no matter which story I come out with, which way I come at it, it just felt like there were rules upon rules upon rules, and I wanted to be out picking wildflowers and playing in the streams and being in the mountains. Like, my soul craved that, but I didn't understand anything about anything.
Right.
So you asked where I am today, and I got a little sidetracked, but I definitely now know that I am a spiritual person. I am not a religious person. Religion to me is somebody at a pulpit telling me their version of events and how it should be. Spirituality to me is kindness. Like, it is how we rule the world, really. So where I am today is absolutely not religious, but I am spiritual. Now, I am open to people's opinions. I love hearing the diversity that we have in religion. But I never ever understood the malice or hurtfulness that a religion would use to hurt people. I never understood that. I never understood that in religion, that in the name of God I smite you. Like, I don't understand that. I was like, my little versions of going to church and everything that I learned was like, Jesus was kind. You know what I mean? Like, it's very confusing to want to please your parents. In doing so, in that time, I have cut off every single person in my family, including my children, to get away from the energy that brings me.
Yeah.
That brings me.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of when all that happened is when we started talking, and I'll get more into my story, but I feel like I did kind of introduce you to a lot of different things when it came to spirituality.
Definitely branched my horizons out. Already I loved some of the same things. I just didn't know why. So you while teaching me more knowledge, also helped me with clarity, like
Yeah.
understanding things.
I think we both helped each other with that, you know. We both were
Yes.
kind of going through things and
Things. Yeah.
lots of things. But I wrote down some questions, you know,
Okay.
that I think that maybe people would be interested in knowing. Definitely questions that like I've had growing up. So,
Okay, yeah.
okay. So, did you believe in Jesus? Was it taught
As the religion, you mean?
like when you were in the religion and you were, you know, going to what do they call them? Sermons, mass.
Yeah, ours was called sacrament meeting,
Okay.
but same idea where the families
So
go
did they
to church.
did they talk about Jesus? Was it taught? Was it
Yes, the way that I understood it was that we had a Godhead. There was like the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
okay?
So like the Father was like God is how I understood it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus was like his son who came to the earth and did all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Holy Ghost was like that little spirit that followed you around and helped you choose the
Yes.
right.
So what about you mentioned like the kingdoms? Where does that come in? Do they?
So basically, it's on your behavior and how good of you are as a person.
Mm.
Like, you're gonna, how I always felt is you were gonna have to go and tell them all your woes, or they're gonna see everything that you ever did flash before your eyes, and you're gonna be judged on that.
Mm-hmm.
And that judgment day depends on which kingdom you get into. So,
Okay.
like, it always was the pressures of perfection, because if you messed up, well, geez, I'm not going to get into the best kingdom. Like, I'm a failure.
Right.
So,
Okay. What was the temple like?
oh, all the shiny. Shiny, 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 shiny. Like, gorgeous. Like, it's got to be billions of dollars building these with the stained glass windows and the chandeliers and the shiny. I mean, who wouldn't go into a place like that and kind of be like, ah, you know?
Was it really big? Like
Yes.
is the temple really
Yes,
big? I've never
gracious,
really seen.
vaulted ceilings,
Okay.
spiral rooms. Like they have the bridal rooms. In my mind now, I look back at it and I'm like, just shiny, shiny, shiny,
Mhm.
shiny. Like
Right.
I don't know how else to describe it.
Sparkly, shiny.
Yes.
Okay. So, were you married? Did you get married in the temple?
Yes, I did. Now, mind you, my husband and I had fooled around before we were married, so that's a huge no-no.
Okay.
So we had to go to the bishop and be like, oh my gosh, we're sorry, like, we should have done this, but we're getting married. So at that point in time, you had to wait 1 year to go to the temple. So even though I had told my husband that I never wanted to go to church, like I just didn't really feel good about it, all the things that I told him as soon as we were married, we were working on going to the temple. And at that point, I felt committed and obligated. So I went with it. Like, you're
Right.
married, right? You're supposed to do that for life. So
Okay.
it happened, yes. So
Okay.
that's where that letter that I was talking about coming in is the other wife wanted to be sealed to him.
Okay.
So that's how it got me. It's called excommunicated from the church. That's how I was kicked out, because I would not write that letter.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Were there any polygamy practices?
that I knew of, no, not in my day and age. It kind of was back in the times that they did that. You know, there's mixed review. You know, clearly there's the dirty, deceitful side of someone having 13 wives, and then there's the so many women were alone back then that, like, if a man married them, then they could be in the home. Like, there's different versions of how you can take that polygamy.
Okay.
You know, for one, couldn't do it. I'm a selfish person. I know that I need that one couldn't do it. Like,
Agreed. Yeah.
if that had been a thing, no,
Okay.
not it.
Okay. So while you were doing all of the studies and the meetings and things, were you ever taught to hate non-Mormon people?
No, I wouldn't say that per se. It was perceived different.
Mm-hmm.
We were taught that ours was the only true church. That if people were not part of our church when the second coming came and the fires and the floods and the famines, when they circled back around to come for all of us, if you were not in this church, you cannot be saved.
Okay,
So it's so like a pressure in a different way in my mind.
so it wasn't so much that you hated people, it was more of you were taught that they were believing the wrong thing, that they weren't
Yes.
following the right.
Yes.
Okay.
That their path was not like ours, and so it can't be true.
Okay. Okay. Did you ever question the beliefs?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
From like
It just.
from a young age, or
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It could have been my rebellion. It could have been that I am an empath in ways that I didn't understand. I don't do fake very well.
mm-hmm.
I've learned with society and the things that we do how to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, emotion was really different for me to figure these things out.
Okay.
So, no, it always felt fake to me. It always felt off. And not because I thought the people were bad, not because I thought the people were evil, not even that I thought the church was evil, but it didn't make sense that a man created that in my mind. It didn't fit that he went to the mountains and made this multi-billion-dollar church. It didn't work for me in my head.
Right.
That's it. That's
okay.
all.
So since you said that you questioned the beliefs from the beginning, do you think you would have left on your own, or do you think that
I kind of did, but I never took the effort to remove my name or anything like that. Like, I just kind of didn't care. Like, you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone.
Okay, that makes sense.
But in the moment that they did kick me out of the church, that they took my name off of the records, and at that moment I remember being devastated because I never really got to decide for myself one way or the other. Like, life was just moving so fast that I never got to sit in it long enough to be like, is this what I want?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what I would have done.
Did you read the same Bible? Like, I grew up in a Catholic church. We read, the Bible.
Right.
Did you read that Bible, or were you taught that was, wrong?
What's the Bible to you? Like the King James Version? Like,
I guess, yeah.
So, okay, so clearly I know the Bible as well as you know the Bible. I don't. I don't know which one we followed. I know that we had a Bible, but the church was also known for the Book of Mormon. And that was like the book about our church, kind of.
So it was like their own
Yeah,
Bible?
like if I understood the story to be correct, like the plates came from God and they had to be translated, and this Joseph Smith that restarted this only church on earth had all the powers to do this and write this book from God himself. So,
okay.
I mean, I don't know about that. That didn't make sense to me at the time.
I know, right? Okay, so you were in it for a while.
Yeah.
What age did you?
Oh, that's funny. Probably, let's see, if I was married at 19, I was married for 18 years, so 37.
I think so, yeah.
About that. A little less than that, because I think it was only a year or two before the divorce that I stopped going.
What were some things that you couldn't have? Like, day to day.
So they believed in the word of wisdom, and the word of wisdom basically was like ways to be healthy. So like, don't do coffee, tea, tobacco, cigarettes, like.
Okay, so they were pretty strict.
All the things that in all reality, yes, it's better for your body if you avoid those things and eat healthy, But on the other hand, like, it was literally like in my mind a sin to drink that caffeine or to do the coffee or to do whatever. Like, my mother to this day, so like when we have coffee and stuff, like, it's just traumatizing. I'm like, it's coffee.
So we love to drink coffee now. That's one of our favorite things. What did you have in the mornings then? Did you just drink juice? Like what?
Not really. Things were limited in my house. Water. Okay. You could have some water or some more water. Throughout the day, we got like a half a cup of milk measured. Like,
okay.
So you know what? My mom didn't know any better than we did. Yeah, I don't know about healthy. Regulated.
Right. I did ask this question before, but it is another thing that I kind of wanted to come back around to was, how did things affect you and your family growing up? while y'all were in the church? I'm sure that it was difficult for everybody, you know.
Stressful. It made my mom stressed out because you had to do extra things on top of running a home. You would have these callings that would give you different assignments in the church, so you would have to do that on top of trying to raise your children. I just always remember my mom being stressed out, and when I was trying to be the mom, I was always stressed out. Like, I didn't understand why this thing that was supposed to make your life better for you was awful.
Okay.
Like, it was awful.
Right.
Like,
well, that was all of the questions that I had for you. Is there anything that you want to add before we move on?
I just hope anybody from my past that hears anything that comes out of my podcast knows that I have no malice. Like, it is my version of events. It is my story. I always saw the good in things as I was coming through until I couldn't.
Okay.
Until I couldn't. Like, there was an ugly side of me for a while, but, you know, I was trying to human too, and I just hope people hear my voice, that it is my opinions about my experience, and that's it.
Right.
You know, I would love to hear what others' experiences were with more, whether they're still in it or they left it. Like, why?
Yeah.
I'd like to know. You know,
Okay.
you
Okay,
know.
that
So
makes
that's my. With that being said, though, you had mentioned that you were raised Catholic. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So, where do I even start? I don't.
Yours is a little more mixed than just Catholic.
Yes, and I don't really remember a lot of before about the age of 5. That was such a significant moment because that's when we moved in with my grandma.
Okay.
And my family had been raised that, you know, you go to church, you know, you have to know who God is and things like that. But we were also kind of taught on the side, especially from like my mom and my grandma, I was taught, you know, just because they say something doesn't mean you always have to agree with it. That you can kind of pick and choose the things that you feel are good for you or good for others, you know. Like you said, I was raised a little bit mixed, so, you know, I went to church. You know, we not often, but I did go to like the vacation Bible school and a Sunday school. I was baptized. I did First Communion. Those were really weird times for me too. You know, things were really turbulent at home. So,
but it sounds like it was more free will in your home versus this is a required thing that you're going to do to live here.
To an extent.
Okay.
It was kind of known that you at least had to get your First Communion before you could stop.
Okay.
You know, and Catholics, they're strict. We not as strict as like you can't have coffee, but you know, strict in the sense of the rules and do's and don'ts, and you know, it's just you've heard the stories of, you know, you blink wrong, you go to hell, things like that. So like we're
all condemned according to religion in my mind.
I know, right? And we went to church, and then I went to the classes. And, you know, I did all of the things, but by the time that I was about in the 8th grade, like 7th going in 8th grade, my mom had went through something really traumatic, and the church basically told her that she was going to hell for it. And that when I stood up, because I was like, you know, how could you say that to someone who's going through these things, you know? They told me that I was also going to hell. So I pretty much was like, well, if I'm going to hell, I'll see you there. And never really went back.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. Like, okay, bye.
Yeah, you know, it's not so much that I hated the teachings. I understand that, you know, the Bible and all of that is to teach people to be good. It's to show them, you know, hey, you don't have to kill people. You can just, like, be nice to your neighbor and it's fine.
Yes.
And there are teachings that I agree with and I don't. And that was my choice. My mom and my grandma also on the side growing up did spells. I remember doing spells with my mom.
Well, that's a little different than Catholicism.
Yes. And I think that's where those teachings of being open kind of came from, because, for us, it was kind of known that, yeah, you can practice, you can be spiritual, but, oh, excuse me, that was the remote. But that, that it's okay to believe in other things, and it's okay to do that, but you have to kind of keep it quiet and to yourself, because a lot of other people wouldn't understand, or they would judge you for it.
Okay, so pagan with caution.
Yes, and it was kind of known that a lot of other pagans go into the Catholic Church. One, you think of the Salem witch trials, things were happening there that made pagan practitioners a little bit nervous. It was kind of a known thing that it was hush hush. It wasn't normal like it is now. So growing up, it was really emphasized to me that, yes, we do practice this, but you keep it to yourself.
Okay, understood.
Once I left the church, though, that was the end of that. I was like, I'm pagan,
jumping up and down.
I was drawing the pentagrams on stuff, I was really, really proud of it. Kind of to a point of being kind of rebel, I was going through the angsty teenage phase, okay. And then, you told me that I can't do this and I have to hide. Well, I'm going to be really bold about it,
Gotcha.
Now, though, with everything, my mom lives in a super witchy town, we're more open to being open practicers. And, my mom has a cauldron, and she lights her cauldron, and that thing will be billowing smoke down the neighborhood, down the street. And she's just kind of known, like,
I love that.
My little sister has friends that will be like, is your mom a witch? Like, things like that. So we were kind of taught in between to go to church and to do all the right things, but then to also have a mind of your own and to experience other things. I've been to the mega churches. I've been to Buddhist monk. Why do I say that? It's Buddhist temples. I've experienced a lot. I went to Native, my dad was married to a Native woman. I went to one of their funerals, spent the entire night with the family. I was included in that funeral, and it was interesting because there's things that, I could take away from it and be like, okay, I really like that. And then there's other things where I'm like, okay,
Yeah, I think so.
And I just, like you, I think that being spiritual has opened up more, it's made me have an open mind. It's opened up more opportunities to talk to different people and, to have conversations where you're like, okay, cool, you believe in that, and I believe in this,
Right.
Being able to compare things back and forth between that.
It's interesting that you had such a variety. So you were taught about Christ, but then you were taught about
doing spells.
Yeah. Like, I kind of feel like in a flip-flop world, I did that to my kids, but in a completely different way. Went from being the mom that took them to church every Sunday to out at the bars every night saying, live your life. Like,
right.
I was just trying to be a person.
Yeah.
So definitely your world went a little more healthy than mine did, with the
right.
But, so I have some questions, unless you have a little bit more to add to your story. And questions. I'm a little blind, so we're going to slide this way a little bit. So, so what was church like for you? For instance, when I would go on Sundays, we had to stay for 3 hours. We had a meeting with the family, we had a meeting with just the girls, and then we had a meeting with boys and girls mixed, and a version of that. But 3 hours every Sunday. So what was church like for you on Sundays?
So when we didn't go every Sunday.
Okay.
We were out exploring. My mom and my grandma did a lot of road trips and stuff, so during the weekends we kind of just disappeared. But when we did go to church, it was about an hour long, maybe an hour and a half,
okay.
lots of up down. You're kneeling, you're sitting, you're standing.
Okay.
The thing that always threw me off was, um, they kind of had like a set thing that they would say, and then you would pray all together and shake each other's hands and say good morning. And it was always funny to me that the prayers, everybody became monotone and just, it was like zombies. Like they just all kind of stopped and said the same thing, and it was all Our Father. It was so strange. I was so in my own world. I didn't really listen or pay attention. I was
fair.
looking up. I'm looking out the windows. I'm looking at Jesus on the cross.
I'm counting the tiles on the ceiling.
Yes. Definitely should have been paying more attention.
No,
sure wasn't.
Not it.
And if we had the class, then it was about 45 minutes, And so then after sitting and up, down, and praying together and all the things, and you would go and they would teach you. And I also didn't really pay attention to that either.
Yeah, I just, my mom made me be there and I didn't want to. That's it. Like, I don't know that in a different realm, maybe I wouldn't have taken the information different. Right. I have no idea on that situation.
Definitely when I was older, I was like, this is kind of lame,
All right. So you talked a little bit about you were also introduced to paganism as well as Christianity. So at what point did you realize that you're more spiritual? How did that come into play for you?
Well, I remember when my mom would do little spells or meditations or energy workings with me, and that warm, fuzzy feeling.
Okay.
It was something that it was almost comforting to me, and I do feel that when I practice.
Like kind of that ball of power in your chest. Like it just makes you be like, I think this is good for me.
Yeah, and I remember my mom showing me that.
Okay.
And then I kind of got lost, as we all do, I think, when we're, in middle school and high school and going through growing up and things like that. But no, I've always kind of been called back to it. It always felt right to me. But, my mom was definitely the one who started all of that for me.
Okay, but you were able to, so that's how you went about that. You just kind of went with that feeling. Like this feels good to me. That's what I feel like.
Yes.
It's interesting because that's a recent thing for me. I didn't really understand. I just was fighting the religion to fight the religion. Like, I didn't know that there could be other ways out there and still be, close to the spiritual side. Like, it's a very confusing thing for me. So, you did already kind of talk about this, like, you have mentioned your grandmother and your mom, some of your major influencers in your life, it sounds like. Were there any other spiritual people in your life?
Not really.
Okay.
It was mostly my mom and my grandma. As I got older, there were things, I think I have a cat hair on my nose. And I keep going like this because Kitten, I love him, but
well, you know what? He decided to make his presence Oz. He's just out of camera sight. Like, I don't even know if you can see him. Like,
he's so silly. But no, if I keep messing with my nose, it's because there's a little cat hair floating around.
Well,
no, my family, sorry. My family, it was mostly just my mom and my grandma that practiced. As I got older into high school, I met more people who practiced, but by then I kind of enjoyed being a solo practicer.
Okay, so you found your group by yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay, because it can come all different ways for people. Who do you feel like is your biggest influence? Like, who do you feel like you resonated with the most when it comes to your beliefs?
Like person-wise, or like
anything? Like, what is it that made you this is why I'm a spiritual person? Or
well, I think I chose it because being taught as a child that you can be open and experience other religions, and it's not terrible to believe something different. I think that was something that stuck with me. It was such an important message, and it stayed with me because, you know, I went to, like I said, mega churches or the Buddhist temples, and I
Right.
experienced things where I was like, oh, I like this, or oh, I don't like this. And, you know, one of the biggest ones was like being at the Buddhist temple and seeing the Buddha and feeling that warm, fuzzy feeling that I started to understand that, you know, you can believe in other things. And we all kind of tell the same story,
Yeah.
you know. But I think the biggest influence was probably my grandma and my mom and saying those things and kind of experiencing it for myself afterwards. I'm definitely
Right.
one of those people that you'll tell me something and I have to process it, maybe experience something, and then be like, oh, okay, that makes sense, you know.
Yeah.
And so being told that as a kid and then experiencing all of those things kind of brought me to where I am now, where I do choose to be more spiritual because I like to be open. I like
Right.
the thoughts of all of the, you
Right.
know, all the other religions and stuff like that.
So you talked about as you were being raised that pagans kind of were on the down low. Like you didn't really go around announcing it. And now you said you don't care.
Yeah.
You don't care who knows that you are. So you don't have fear over being pagan.
Not anymore. I did.
Okay.
Just because, you know, growing up you hear about, oh, you know, you could be stoned if people found out, or, you know, people could hurt you, they don't understand, they fear it, things like that, you know. Also growing up and hearing, oh my god, that witch is evil, or they practice, they worship, say, like all the things. And it did make me kind of fearful for a long time because I was like, what if I did say that and the wrong
Right.
person heard it and then they're mad, or, you know, something like that. But now that I'm an adult, I'm kind of like, what are you going to do?
Okay, yeah.
You know, it's one of those where I'm like, if you don't like it, okay.
And we're in an area that people just do their own thing. Like,
Yeah.
nobody's bothering anybody around here. Um, so, kind of going back to your religion again, what was the belief system with that church? Like me, I said we had the Godhead and
Yeah,
the three.
so we have the same thing, Father, Son, Holy Ghost.
Okay.
You know, that's when they do it with the sign of a cross. It's the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, you know. They also believed in Mary, you know.
Okay.
So they had different saints and things like that, but mostly they were like, no, it's God and Jesus, and
Okay.
so it was the typical.
Another argument, or I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but like one thing that we were taught was we believed in the living Christ, and we were told that everyone else believed in the crucified Christ. Do you
Yes.
know what?
We believed in the crucified.
Okay,
Christ.
so the version that we got was supposedly he came back 3 days later, like resurrected.
Okay, but we were taught that too.
So that's how it's really confusing to me. Was he alive or was he not? I don't understand that story.
I don't either.
Okay,
you know,
that's like fairy tales for me.
That was kind of the point where I was like, okay, I think, you know, I think that we've told. Have you ever played a game of telephone where it starts out one way and then by the end, by the time it comes back, it's a completely different thing? I kind of feel like that's what the Bible was. You know, he walked on water.
Yes.
So you're telling me one person out of the entire history, there's only one person who ever walked on water and nobody ever did it again? And we're just okay with that?
But
that doesn't make sense, you know?
It just,
so by the time that I was questioning things, I kind of was like, I don't know about this.
Fair. I think I got that way in a lot of the stories. I just kind of would sit there and be like, yeah, but
yeah.
You know, you're just trying to figure it out. It's whatever. So, okay. Did you guys believe in the Bible?
I mean, like as a church, as a religion, yes.
Yes.
Personally, not really. You know, it was just kind of hit or miss. It just depends on who you talk to. There were some people that went to church and they fully believed in you know, the Bible. I feel like I was more taught to question things. You know,
I was definitely not taught that, but I surely did.
Right.
Surely did. I was not taught that. Okay, so you had asked me if we were taught to hate other religions. What was it like for you? Do you feel like you were schooled in hating other religions?
No, they didn't really talk about it.
Okay, fair enough.
They kind of just left it on their own, really. I mean, they were
Right,
just like,
hey, you want to come here and be a better person? This is what we do, but we're not going to hate on anybody.
yeah, and that
Nice.
experience might be different for different churches, or I think my church was just, it was different.
Okay.
They just kind of were like, if you come, cool. If not, okay.
Hey, maybe that's why you guys fit. I think that's why there are so many churches, though, because for some, that gives them safety and warmth.
Well, and like there were psalms and things that they read that talked about like, oh well, if they don't believe in God and Jesus, then like they're gonna go to hell and stuff like that. And witches. There was one that I remember them being like, and people, heathens and witches, and they're going, and I was like, okay, well, I don't know. I don't think there was a lot of hatred necessarily. I think that it was more of, they're so black and white. If you don't believe it, you're gonna go to hell. Sorry, friend.
Okay, so kind of the same thing. You have to do these things to be great, but if not, oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me the way that people have manipulated church over time in my mind.
Mm.
Each church is a different version of the same thing.
Mm.
Kindness or not kindness, like everybody kind of goes off of that, I feel like.
Right.
With being more of a spiritual person and meeting you who's more of a spiritual person, my happy place is those mountains. Being in if God created this earth, well, that's why I'm so happy there.
Right.
God didn't create that building for me to go and sit in.
The big gold building.
And the amount of damage we do to others in the name of religion.
The hatred.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I never have. Hey, man, you want to come to church with me? Great. You don't? Cool, moving on. I don't understand where people were literally coming after each other in the name of what religion you are, or I've never understood that.
No, not
but
at
then
all.
Again, witches, they came after witches for what they believed in. With everything that we've said, I know that you've kind of touched on a lot of it, but where do you feel you are today? From your child to today, you sitting in this chair, who are you as a religious or spiritual person?
I'm definitely more spiritual. I try to keep an open mind. I do feel like with Catholicism, they were so quick to, oh, well, you do this, then you're wrong. You're going to hell. And I don't think that. I think that we're all people and all trying to survive.
Yeah.
And, if somebody wants to believe in the Book of Mormon, or if somebody wants to read the Bible and, do that for their own mental health and their own way of accepting life and things like that, then who am I to judge? I definitely
100%.
prefer the mountains. I kind of say that that's my church.
Yeah.
Is going up to the mountains and disappearing. But I definitely would say that I am more of an open-minded spiritual person.
Yeah, same. To follow up with what you've done, again, I never was against my religion. I know that I fought my parents in going. I know that I fought it every step of the way, but it wasn't about hating it. It was that it didn't make sense to me. It doesn't resonate to me.
Mm-hmm.
I met more fake people being a part of that religion that talked behind my back and treated me awful, and in the name of Christ, be a good neighbor and do unto others. And it was some of the worst experiences of my life.
Right.
I didn't understand that culture. It didn't make sense to me. I've always said that action over words. You can apologize to me 5,000 times, but if none of your actions change, you didn't change.
Right.
And so that was the thing with the church to me. It was just more rules that added to my chaos.
Right.
Like, it just, there was so many things you had to follow and so many things that you had to do. It made me a stressed out mother. It made me a stressed out human. It made me, I just could never in my mind figure out how to live up to those standards. Now, mind you, maybe it's because of how I was raised. Maybe it had more to do with my parents than the church. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I just know that every time I was involved with the church, it felt like, what's that saying? Wash, rinse, and repeat.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really break out of the cycle. You do the same things over and over. I felt like it was a way to keep the people distracted.
Right.
Like, just one more thing that if you follow this path and this plan, like, that's all there is. Like, I didn't know how to break out of it.
Right.
So, for me, spiritually, though, the fact that I found a way to ground myself with all the misinformation I had, and the saddest part is, I think, in the end of it, like, it was kind of all about self-care, and I just didn't know how to do anything about anything,
Right.
So yeah, definitely a spiritual person, uh, and a grounded, like, total opposite of where I came from.
Right.
And I never saw that coming. I never saw that coming.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting one day to reintroduce some of that.
Right. Well, before we go, it's almost time. Um, why did you decide to cover religion as a topic so soon? We're only 3 episodes in. Why was that a decision that, we started talking about religion versus spirituality?
I think I wanted people to know where I stand. My entire life I have been put on display or had to play in charades, or it was always a version of who I was as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Because while it was a version of who I was trying to make another person happy, whether it be my kids, a partner, a friend, anybody. I never ever got the time to be me, do me, and all about me.
Mm.
And so I think that I just wanted it out there. Yeah, this is where I came from. This is going to be some hard facts that I get to get out. The whole point of this was a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe my story can inspire someone maybe to not hate where they come from, to maybe figure it out more.
Right.
I will always say that I was undereducated, lack of knowledge. And that's as bad on my part as where I came from. Mm-hmm. The fact that it took till now to figure out some things.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. I kind of feel the same way. I there was definitely a point in my life when I resented going to church, and I was mad that I had given so much time to Catholicism and things like that. And now I'm grateful for it. It taught me things. It was the basics of be a good person. And like I said, there were things that I liked about the teachings and things that I didn't, and I take what I like and I move on. And kind of like you, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for that.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things. It's kind of your foundation of who you figure out that you're going to be. And I didn't realize how big that was.
Yeah.
So if you come into your teens flying out of what you were told to be, but you don't really know, that's a rough start.
Yeah.
I think also the other reason I wanted to talk about religion is because I would love to hear what other people think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is one of my things. I've always loved knowledge. I just kind of lost my way for a while, and I think one of the biggest reasons that my children and I have a rift between each other is because of religion. It is because the influencers on the religious side are so much stronger and more powerful than me as one person can be. So I'm hoping to flip that. I'm hoping to be that champion that breaks through some better knowledge, and maybe there can be better times, but I feel like religion is also one of the reasons that there's problems.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so as well as I'm neutral, others aren't.
Right.
So I'm curious about that. I'm curious what others' experiences are in that area, you know, of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else that you have to add? Anything that...
I don't think so. I think, religion is such a hard topic. I think that people are so scared to talk about it. You never know who you're going to offend. Recently, obviously we live in the US, things are a little tense. And I think that religion has a huge mix in all of that. And I think that we could all stand to just chill out.
I hope so.
And understand, it's okay to grow up in different beliefs, and it's okay to still have different beliefs.
Yeah.
That we don't all have to be the same person and believe the same thing, and even if we don't believe the same thing, that
right.
It's okay.
And again, part of this podcast journey for me is this is about my journey. This is about my story as well as yours.
Yeah.
And that was one of the biggest reasons that I always wanted to do this, was to get that voice out there. So for me, I got to be honest with you, sometimes it's for me to get it out and move on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have been in the past for so long and for so many trials I'm hoping that by getting some of these, by speaking them into the universe, that I can move forward.
Right.
I can move forward and move on and do better things and, put energies towards a better future for me.
Yeah.
Then focus on where I came from.
Okay. So, I like that. I love that, hopefully people will feel more comfortable with us too, if they hear that we're more open-minded rather than, something so strict.
I think they're going to love our vibe, and we don't have to worry about it anymore.
I hope so.
But we're a couple minutes short, but I think we're going to call it. I think we've, told a little bit about ourselves. We'd love to hear anybody that is from religious backgrounds or anything of the nature.
Yep.
So, yeah. Like, subscribe, share, hit us up, and next week we're hoping to have another guest on there. So
that'll be exciting.
So hopefully the cat will make a better appearance next time.
Right.
But have a good night. Thank
Bye.
you.
Okay, now I gotta. Don't mind me. I'm just gonna go down
here. The remote on the ground. You know what?